Hello everyone, it's Myeongkol Jan. Today I am going to read S6 6004 Aliens for Breakfast, Chapter 5 to the end. The mall was busy for a Thursday afternoon. Richard wondered why. Then he saw that one of the stores was having a promotion. It was for a new man's perfume called Sweat. A big fat man dressed like a wrestler was giving out free samples. Oh, why would anyone want to buy that stuff? Said Richard. To attract the female of the species, of course, said Eric. Girls I can see spending money to keep them away, said Richard, but I would rather spend it on something cool like that. He pointed at a black satin baseball jacket in the window of a store. I don't have enough money though. Mom says maybe she'll get it for my next birthday. Of course, I may never have another birthday. Richard's hands and feet were really hurting now. After we have destroyed the drain, the brigade may find some extra money to buy your gift, said Eric. You have earned something for all you have been through. Eric sounded so sure of destroying Dorf that Richard felt a little better. Gee, thanks, he started to say, but Eric interrupted him. Great Ganoob, cried the alien. What is that? They were next to Mutant Splendor, a store that sold sci-fi games, books, toys, masks, and comics. It was just about Richard's favorite place in the whole world. Today, the front of the store was taken up by a giant display of the space lords of Gygrax. The big plastic warriors had bright red wings, blue skin, and webbed feet. They were all snarling and holding laser swords as if they were about to attack. The display had sound effects too, battle noises and strange space music. Richard's mouth dropped open. For a second, he forgot that his hands and feet hurt. This was awesome, 10 times better than the comic books. But Eric didn't think so. You call these Gygraxians, he snapped. They are a joke. You mean there really is a planet Gygrax? Asked Richard. Of course. But Gygraxians do not have wings, they have fins. Not only that, their skin is orange, not blue. They never fight. They are the biggest cowards in the galaxy. This is an outrage. I want to speak to the manager. Eric started to hop out of Richard's pocket. Richard clamped the hand around him. How can you get so upset about a bunch of stupid toys? Time is running out. You have to remember when the secret weapon is. What the secret weapon is. Was it Richard's imagination? Or was he beginning to feel wobbly? Maybe he was dissolving faster. Eric, Richard went on, but then he froze. Dolph and Henry were walking down the mall. They were dressed in the same red t-shirts and ripped jeans. Dolph was talking. Henry was listening. He nodded his head at everything Dolph said. As Richard watched, they walked into Pizza World. Eric gasped. Richard, there they are. Dolph and Henry. Should we follow them or what? Follow? Answered, I've never trailed anybody before. What if they see us? Do not worry, said Eric. I will make us invisible. What? You can do that? How come you didn't do it before? It's very expensive. Only for emergency, said Eric, and it only lasts 10 minutes. Now let us go. He made a low humming sound that filled Richard's head. For a moment, as he crossed over to Pizza World, Richard found himself humming too. He couldn't help himself. When he reached for the door of the pizza parlor, Richard's hand disappeared. He looked down at his feet. There wasn't there either. He was invisible. Being in chapter 6, being invisible was a little scary. Richard couldn't see or feel himself, so he couldn't tell where he began or ended. As he walked into Pizza World, he moved his arms and legs very slowly. He was hoping he wouldn't bump into anything. But even though he was really careful, he did. When he passed a table of 4 teenage girls, he knocked over all the empty soda cups. Ice cubes and paper cups went flying. The girls screamed. Richard froze. Keep going. Eric's voice boomed inside. Richard said, have you never been invisible before? Are you kidding? I'm human. We can't do that. Eric gave a tiny snore. Well then, just sit down quietly. Try not to move around a lot. At least no one knows that we are here. The drain is too busy with his food. Dolph and Annie were sitting at a table covered with pizza pies and soft drinks. Richard held his breath. Then he sat down quietly beside Henry. He looked to Richard as if the pizza were the house special. That's by pizza. They had peas, carrots, onion, cheese, and wheat germ on them. The Espa pizzas were famous on the mall. No one had ever died from eating one, but people had come close. Just before drains they build up the power by eating a lot, said Eric. Richard's heart sank. There were 7 pizzas on the table. Hey, these look really good. Dorf licked his lips. This isn't great being here without that little nerd Richard. Yeah, it's great, Dorf, said Henry in a spaced out voice. Richard felt like giving Dolph an invisible punch. Maybe Dolph will die from the pizza. He said to Eric, no, the pizza will simply help him to divide faster. Dolph picked up a glass shaker of red hot pepper flakes and poured it all on one of the pizzas. He breathed in clouds of red dust. Big smile broke out over his face, and he reached over to an empty table and grabbed another glass shaker. He poured the pepper flakes over a second pizza. Suddenly Dolph sprang up. He went from table to table, picking up all the pepper shakers. When his arms were full, he came back and sat down. He lined all the shakers up in front of him. Henry looked puzzled. What are you doing, Dolph? Eating. Dolph turned his widest smile on Henry. I'm hungrier than I thought. One by one, he emptied all the shakers onto the pizza. Henry gulped and turned green. What is in the bottles? Eric asked Richard. Red hot pepper flakes, the hottest stuff in the world. I can't believe he can eat all that and not explode. That's it, shouted Eric. Red pepper, I knew I would remember. That's the weapon. Great. Richard watched the Dolph closely. He could hardly wait to see what the pepper flakes would do, but nothing happened. Dolph wasn't dying. He wasn't even looking sick. He was enjoying himself. He devoured slice after slice of the pizza. Eating faster and faster, Henry nibbled on the edge of a piece. Then he ran gasping for water. Dolph paid no attention. He ate and ate. His fair skin turned pink. His blue eyes flashed purple. Terrible greedy smile spread over his face, which was now covered with cheese and bits of carrot. How come it's not working, Eric? Asked Richard. I mean, if it's the weapon, shouldn't he be getting weak or something? Richard had an awful thought. What if Eric was wrong? What if the pepper flake didn't work against Dolph? I'm not wrong. Too late. Richard remembered that Eric could hear his thought. It's all coming back to me now. The weapon is pepper flakes. Drains cannot resist it. Once they start eating it, they cannot stop, and then they explode. Then how come he's so happy? If anything, Dork looked stronger now than before. If he were eating just pepper flakes, he would indeed die soon, said Eric. But he is eating pizza also, and that's giving him strength. What can we do? We must feed him pepper flake, and only pepper flakes. Enough to destroy him, and we must work quickly. Okay, I'll give it to him. Tomorrow at school. Very good. By the time Henry came back, Dolph was on his last pizza. His face was bright red. Henry was staring into his empty cup. He looked sick. I don't feel so good, he said. Have another slice, said Dolph. Could we go home now? I think I better lie down. I'm almost finished. I feel really good. Great. There is nothing like a pizza to get your blood flowing. How about running around the mall a few times? Maybe later, mumbled Henry. Jumped up and went off to the bathroom. We had better go, said Eric. We are going to become visible again in about a minute. Richard got up very carefully. He made his way around the chairs and table. He opened the front door and slid out of the pizza world. Then he headed back to mutant splendor. No one would notice if a kid and a tiny alien materialized there. They would think it was some new game or promotion or something. And that was exactly what happened. Chapter 7. The next morning, Richard was up early. But I guess today we saved the universe, he said nervously. Eric was curled up in an orange frisbee. He yawned and stretched. It's not the universe, just your little home planet. He answered. I resent that, said Richard. He pulled his socks on over his bandaged feet. If it's so small and unimportant, why are you here? Richard's head was pounding. Was that part of melting too? In any case, he was just sick of Eric acting like such a know-it-all. All right, your plan is important if the drains take over us. Who knows what they will do next? But it's bad luck to brag, and worse manners. Your mother should have taught you that. She tried, said Richard. He went into his closet and pulled out a 5-pound box of pepper flakes, so weak that it was hard to lift the box. He had spent $17.52 on it, his life saving. I sure hope this works, he said. Do you think 5 pounds is enough? It better be. Dolph will divide it in exactly 3 hours and 14 minutes. Then it's bye-bye biosphere, Richard shuddered. I guess we better hurry. There's no place else to go if we mess up. Is there? Negatory, my friend. Richard, time to get up. Richard put Eric into his shirt pocket. He zipped the box of pepper flakes into his backpack. He walked into the kitchen. His mother in her bathrobe was opening and closing all the cabinets. Where did the tea bags go? She said. I could swear they were in here yesterday. Gee, Mom, I sure don't know. He and Eric had cleaned up the kitchen the afternoon before in a big hurry. They probably should have been more careful. You're up early this morning, said his mother. How come? Something special going on at school? No, just felt like getting an early start. Good for you. What would you like for breakfast? Some more of that nice Nuke cereal? No, he never wanted to see another box of Alien Crisp in his life. His mother peered at him. Are you all right, honey? You look pale. For a second. Richard felt like a little kid again. He wished he could tell his mother everything. I'm fine, Mom. He sat down at the table. Really? But at least have a good breakfast. She smoothed back his hair. How about an egg? Sure, said Richard to his mother, surprised he had everything on his plate. Then he kissed her on the cheek and left to wait for the school bus, right on time. Richard was glad Henry wasn't on the bus. If he saw Henry, he wasn't sure he could keep quiet about Duff. He knew that saying another thing would ruin Ark's mission. It was pretty clear that Henry was under Dobbs' control. He probably wouldn't believe me if I did tell him, thought Richard. He walked into school and stood near the boys' bathroom. A second later, Dolph and Henry came walking down the hall. They were both wearing red cowboy shirts and string tied. Dolph was talking, and Henry was nodding at everything he said, as usual. Remember, do not look at Dolph's teeth. When he smiled, said Eric, and step back after you give him the flakes. Drains can get violent before they explode. Richard got hot, then cold, and slightly dizzy. Do not be afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm terrified, said Richard. But even as he said it, he was stepping away from the wall. He stood in front of Dolph and Henry. Hi, you guys. Hi, Richard, said Dolph. How are you doing? You don't look so good, buddy. Must right at Richard. Just in time, Richard remembered to look away. Then he said, I was hoping I would run into you before class, Dolph. I've got something I think you'll really like. Come on in here. I'll show it to you. He led them into the boys' bathroom, which was empty. Then he set his backpack down. It took all his strength to pull out the box of pepper flakes. Here, this is for you, Richard told Dolph. He opened the box. Want some? Dolph looked at the pepper flakes. Suddenly his face was wet with sweat. He smiled a hungry smile. His breath came fast and hard, and his eyes gleamed. His face turned bright pink. Grabbed the box away from Richard, and he poured a heap of pepper flakes into his hand. He stuffed it into his mouth as if he were eating popcorn. Only he didn't chew it. He simply swallowed it. Then he swallowed another handful and another. Dolph, what are you doing? Cried Henry. Dolph ignored him. His eyes turned bright purple. More. He poured the pepper flakes down his throat. More. The snaps on his cowboy shirt popped open. His chest was bright red. It started to steam. Henry jumped away. So did Richard. Now Dolph's eyes were bulging. He finished off the box and his skin went from red to purple. His hair started to burning. It smelled horrible. Yikes, said Richard. He grabbed Henry. They backed away toward the door. Dolph began bubbling and popping. His clothes fell to the floor in a smoking heap. He stopped looking like a boy and started to look like a blob of live silly putty. Then he sprouted a tentacle. There were dozens of them. They thrashed on the floor, making a loud hissing noise. Richard felt something on his neck. He jumped. It was only Eric. He had climbed on Richard's shoulder to watch. A rubble cry filled the bathroom. You got me, screamed Dolph. 2 more hours, I'd have started dividing my clones. Would have been all over your planet like ants on a candy bar. And then all your pathetic earthlings would have been our slaves. His tentacles flopped on the white floor. I hate to lose, Dolph wailed at Richard. I hope you flunked math and history. I hope you failed science and art and social studies and English and gym. Then he blew up. Chapter 8. It had been a great day. Dolph was gone. All was safe. Richard had stopped melting. He and Henry were friends again. In fact, now that Dolph was gone, everyone in Richard's class seemed a little friendly. Richard didn't know why. Sure wasn't because anyone knew he'd have saved the world. The amazing thing was that no one even remembered Dolph anymore, except for Henry, who was coming over later to spend the night. Richard planned to tell him all about the drains then. Only bad thing about the day was that Eric was leaving. Can't you stick around for a while and hang out at the mall? Asked Richard. School was over and he and Eric were back home. In a few minutes, Interspace Brigade was going to beam Eric back to Ganoop. He was leaving from the same place where he had landed, the Bickerstaff kitchen table. Sorry, the universe calls. Those drains never sleep. By the way, if you ever want to join the brigade, just let me know. Would I get to fly around at light speed and blast monster? Asked Richard, or wear a shiny red and blue uniform? Mostly you have to travel first class in things like cereal boxes. And they make you wear baggy overalls to blend in. Oh, that sounded almost as bad as school. The work is okay though. Every now and then you run into a really brave freedom fighter, someone who risks his life to save the world. That's truly satisfying. It sounded like Eddie was paying him a compliment, but Richard wasn't sure. You mean me? Absolutely. Wow, thanks. He blushed. Then he asked, will I ever see you again? Usually we don't go to a planet unless it is under attack. But sometimes we can work in a short stopover. That'd be great. We could go to a mutant Splenda and Pizza World just like old time. Out like that. Out like that. And if you are ever near Ganoob, drop in. You'd love Ingvar, even if she's a girl Ganoobian. Richard's heart sank. He knew he could never visit Ganoob. It was hard enough to visiting his grandmother in California, but he managed to smile. Sounds good. I'll try. Meanwhile, if you could send me postcards sometime, maybe. Or maybe I will send you something else. By now, Eric was standing on the salt shaker, waiting for the Ganoobian transport beam. Suddenly he began to fade like a TV picture in a thunderstorm. Goodbye. Richard, thank you, he waved. Bye, Eric, I'll miss you, said Richard. Then the alien was gone, and Richard started to cry. Next morning, Richard woke up and suddenly he sat up and rubbed his eye. Henry opened his eyes at the same moment. He sat up too. Wow, Richard, I just had the most amazing dream. I don't know if it was all that stuff you told me about Eric or what, but I dreamed I saw all these funny little pink creatures. They were bouncing up and down together in a big circle. Me too. I had the same dream. Did you see two of them sort of floating in the middle of the circle, looking really, really happy? Yeah. I wonder what was going on. Henry yawned and got out of bed. He started to get dressed just as Mrs. Bickerstaff knocked on the door. Rise and shine, boys, she called. Time to get up. I bet I know. I think it was Eric's homecoming, and there was Ingvar with him in the circle. He smiled. They sure looked like they were having a great time. Richard opened his closet door. There on the floor was a brand new black satin baseball jacket. On its back in a big gold letter was the word Interspace Brigade. Picked it up and put it on. It was really cool. There was a note in one of the pockets. Thanks again, it said. Wear this and have a pizza for me. See you, Eric. The end.